What if leadership wasn't just about where you've been, but how present you are right now? Anish Bafna, CEO of Healthium Medtech, has lived across 6 countries, led global teams, and turned a homegrown Indian company into a global medtech force. But talk to him, and you'll hear less about numbers and more about nuance. About building teams with energy, not just efficiency. About courage, creativity, and integrity as the colors of leadership. And about how small wins spark innovation and self worth fuels vision. He is proof that you can scale without losing soul, that healthcare innovation can be deeply human, and that leadership at its best is lived moment by moment. So, how do you build trust across 80 countries while staying rooted in purpose? What does it take to lead when the industry and the world is in constant flux? And why is presence a power we don't talk about enough? If you're a founder, a CEO, or just someone figuring out what kind of leader you want to be, this one's for you. I'm Antony Alex, and you're watching Season 2 of the Leadership Lounge.
So one thing I learned early in life is that you are as strong as your weakest link. So I used to believe that gut plays a larger and a more important role in most things you do in life, including hiring. At the core of everything in life, it is integrity. Because if you have a high level of integrity automatically brings in ownership, it brings in courage, it brings in discipline, it brings in accountability. It is statistically demonstrated that 50% of your hiring decisions will be wrong.
Okay, fine.
Are you clearly taking accountability of making the difference in the life of your stakeholders, of your own lives, of your professional journey? And if you are, then everything will fall in place eventually. The competitor can copy your product, they can copy your price, they can copy your strategy, but it's very difficult to copy your culture. Do not create a good enough product. Create the best product. You look cool all the time, assuming that you are cool as a cucumber.
I wish. Anish, welcome to the Leadership Lounge. Thank you so much for making time. I think we have been trying to get this
For a time.
managing and meeting schedules for a while now. I'm delighted that we could finally get you on the Leadership Lounge. So welcome and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me over, Tony. I've seen a few snippets of the earlier programs and you seem to be doing a fantastic job there. So lucky of me to have been invited on this show.
Well, thank you so much. You're very kind. All right. So Anish, we can get straight to it. You've had a very interesting journey, and I think I just want to sort of kick off with that aspect in the sense that you've started out, from let's say Baxter all the way to Healthium today, where you are working at an MNC, and even before Baxter, I think you've had a fairly longish stint with MNCs, worked overseas,
Right.
and then you've come back to India, set up Healthium. What's the experience been like in terms of working both with multinationals, both overseas and in India, and working with an organization that is sort of homegrown, of course, albeit PE funded? What's that experience been like? If you can just share that a little bit with us, that'll be great.
So Tony, I've been lucky, I've got the opportunity to work in multiple geographies and then come back to India and be instrumental in the setting up of Healthium. And every country, every experience has been very different, and it's been extremely enriching, not only for me, but also for my family. Baxter was, of course, the largest stint, and Baxter in itself is a learning organization. It's an institution, and it's right. I mean, there was a time where 40% of the global healthcare CEOs would have graduated out of Baxter, because Baxter had multiple categories. There were pharmaceuticals, there were biologics, there were medical devices, they were into acute therapies, and they were also into chronic therapies. So the experiential curve of having worked in something like a Baxter was immense. And they constantly kept on giving me different geographical responsibilities, which sort of helped me to really grow both as a professional as well as an individual, dealing with different cultures, dealing with different market archetypes is a brilliant learning opportunity. So I guess I've been very lucky on that particular front. What sort of both my earlier experiences brought to the fore was, as an organization, how do you reward behaviors, right? And both the organizations I worked for earlier were very focused on initiative. So at Baxter, what they would really reward was the ability to take initiatives, the ability to go beyond the job description, the ability to do more and be entrepreneurial in nature. And I think that really helped me a lot in getting into the Healthium role, which was purely entrepreneurial in nature. I think the other thing that, at least from a Baxter perspective, was very, very prominent was the focus on people and the focus on the patient. Now, there's the normal gamut of experiences one gets in all kind of organization, but the people centricity was extremely high. And the entire focus was on getting the right set of people, making sure that there is a developmental plan for all the people in the organization so that they continuously keep growing with the growth of the organization. So that was a lesson that has always stayed with me, because ultimately somebody will copy the products you're making, ultimately somebody will copy the strategy that you have, but if you have the right set of people, they are the one who can really drive the organization to the next level. And the second was the patient centricity, in our case because we are a healthcare organization, or what would in normal parlance be customer centricity. So, are you doing everything within your might to make sure that you are giving a high quality product to the customer and making sure that you excel in the service offering or the product offering that you have for them. And those experiences is what we replicated out here in Healthium. Of course, I had a great team that was working along with me in building the organization that we have over a period of the last 7 years. But the entire focus of the organization revolves around people centricity and customer centricity. And as an organization, the one thing that is an area of zero tolerance for us is respect. Whether it is respect for every individual who works for the organization or any stakeholder that we are associated with, the ecosystem in general, the ecology out there. So we are very, very focused on this element of respect. And respect then brings in humility, which is sort of the behavior that you demonstrate day to day as an organization. And different people in the organization have got in their own different set of values, cultures, etc. But these are the common themes on which we are really trying to create the Healthium of today and of the future.
Anish, you've spoken about how great teams are not born but built, right? You've said that in a number of places. If you could spend a little bit of time on, if you could elaborate on what you mean by that, how have you applied it, across your professional career, particularly as a leader, where you've had an opportunity to shape and mold the organization that you're building, and of course in the very, very fast evolving healthcare space.
So, Tony, one thing I learned was that you're as strong as your weakest link. And in most cases, it is to do with the people that you have working in the organization. Now, I've been through different phases. Phase at Baxter was where you could really attract very high quality talent very easily, primarily because you were a large multinational. People were sort of queuing up to join organizations like those. And you could be a little more choosy in what you were really looking for. When I came to Healthium, we were setting up an organization. We were making changes to the culture and the DNA of the organization. And at that point in time, you really had to have a strong employee value proposition, because what is it that you had on offer, right? So you go through different transitionary phases in your ability to attract high-grade talent. But to me, certain things are very important. One is I hire for attitude. Technical skills vary, from let's say 70, 80% to 100, 120%. But unless and until it is matched by high levels of a learning ability of an individual, then it really doesn't match up, right? So when I'm looking at any individual that I'm hiring, I'm looking at attitude. I'm looking at ownership and accountability. because you really don't want to hire people where you have to, hold them by the hand and lead them through. You're actually looking at leaders who have the capability of attracting high quality talent, putting the right sort of processes in place. The third thing is I'm looking for in anybody that I hire is security. How secure is this person in his or her own skin? Because if you do not have a secure leader, they will, in all probability, end up hiring their team members who might not be of the highest standard, right? Because you are doing recruitment or you're bringing in talent at a certain level, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they hire very high quality, high potential team members and then help scale up the organization. So that becomes important. Within Healthium also, I've seen we've gone through the journey. Earlier on, we really had to sort of sell the value proposition of Healthium, and at that point in time, I saw that people were drawn to the purpose of the organization, that we are really trying to create a Medtech company out of India. There's a dream that we have to make India less dependent on imported medical device or medical equipment in the country. And a lot of people came with that sense of purpose, joined that particular journey. And over a period of time, we were able to attract even higher quality of talent because they see the purpose having fructified to a certain extent. And now they see that, here's an organization that has the capability of probably becoming an institution at some point in time. So the pool of talent is getting better and we are being a little bit more discerning. But the fundamental areas around attitude, integrity, humility, these are areas where we don't make any compromise.
All great thoughts, because I think they are the building blocks of building a great team. I'm with you on that. And in fact, one of the things that I've often lived by is that you should always aim to hire A players, because A players end up hiring other A players. They're more secure, right? If you hire a B player, they're likely to hire a C or a D. Absolutely. And so on and so forth. So go for A players because they're likely to be the most secure, because they realize the value is in getting more people like them into the organization. Right. The question though is, you've spoken about attitude, you've spoken about aptitude, humility. How do you really figure out, skills, for example, are relatively more objective, right? When it comes to hiring. Yeah. How do you really figure out if somebody has the right attitude? Because interviews, it's a 1 hour, 2 hour discussion. Yeah. People can fake it. People do fake it, right? So how do you really figure all of these attributes out? Very quickly, if you can answer for us. And also, how much do you depend on your gut when you're making hiring decisions? Do you actually go by, I've often been told that the gut feel that you get in the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes about a candidate that you're meeting is more often than not the right sort of decision to go with. Because your gut, 9 out of 10 times will be leading you in the right direction. Yeah. Now, would love to hear your views on that as well. Yeah.
I'll answer the second part of the question first on the gut portion. So I used to believe that, gut plays a larger and a more important role in most things you do in life, including hiring, till I was in a situation where I was interviewing somebody, and within the first 5 minutes, I had made up my mind that, there's no way I'm going to be hiring this person. But because this person had flown, about a couple of thousand miles to come and meet me, I said, I need to be gracious and give him more time. And that discussion went on for about 1.5 hours. At the end of it, I told the HR folks that, you need to make him an offer right now. He should not leave the office without having an offer, right? So I think gut is essentially a function of all the experiences that you have.
Yes.
And your ability to put it together. But sometimes, because of previous biases, if you sort of have this model and the person doesn't fit in, you immediately tend to reject it. So I'm very, very careful about the fact that, I am not hiring somebody who is based on a typical model. I'm looking at somebody because of the skill set she or he is bringing to the tables, and let me explore the personality of the person. Sure. So to me, that long conversations are very important. When I'm hiring, a direct report, it is not one meeting. I like to have 2 or 3 meetings with that particular person, because in different settings, in office, over a cup of coffee, over a lunch, you get to know more facets of the personality of the person that is going to be joining the organization, right? So it's never a met once and decided, I always have a follow-up meeting with that particular individual. The second thing is I don't rely only on my own instincts or my own sort of experiential curve. So everybody that we are hiring goes through a panel of at least 3 or 4 individuals in the organization. There are two facets to it. One is that person hearing the same thing from everybody, because I might be making up a story about my organization and it might not resonate with the others. So is that person getting the same narrative of what we are really trying to do about about our organization?
So it's sort of like multiple filters
So multiple
before a person
filters
is hired.
that help you to sort of get a better understanding. The third thing we do is we do very extensive reference checks. And some of these reference checks I like to do myself, because when you are talking to somebody who's been associated with them, and it's not as if they come without biases. You need to filter out the biases, but at least they give you a decent understanding of what this person was doing earlier on. When I'm interviewing, it is always a behavioral interviewing style where I want to understand the episodes that have happened as this person was going through different facets of their professional journey. So when you put it all together, I think it gives you a fair understanding of, are you hiring the right resource for the organization or not. Having said that, it is statistically demonstrated that 50% of your hiring decisions will be wrong.
Okay, fine.
So you've got to live.
Are you at 50 or do you have a better average than
If
that?
I confess to 50, my team is going to be extremely disappointed.
So you can't confess to the right number.
To that. At least at this point in time, I'm feeling extremely comfortable and very proud of the team that we have.
Of course.
But there are always areas we improve.
Anish, you once said that your power is in the present, right? Can you share an instance with us where your being fully present sort of made all the difference, made a difference to whatever it is that you were, either a transaction or an important meeting or whatever it is that you can share with us?
So the one thing, Tony, I sincerely believe is that you have to travel 5,000 miles for a 15 minutes meeting. Because, and in this world of Zoom and Teams, we've sort of moved away from those physical meetings, but I think there's a huge amount of traction that one can get out of any interaction that is face to face. So I believe that, that is very important.
The in-person meeting is...
The in-person meeting, face to face, understanding the chemistry of the individual. Yes. That is extremely important. So I'm very happy to sort of travel as much as required just to make sure that, we are dealing with the right set of partner, stakeholder, what have you. Now, most of the times we are either, functioning basis our failures or, projecting for the future, right? I mean, by projection, I mean that, you're also worried about the future. And the focus, if it is brought on the here and now, as to, are we excelling in what we are doing today rather than worrying too much about tomorrow? That becomes an extremely important narrative of what you drive in the organization. Because you really cannot control, we have these 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans. They are directional in nature. You think you have more control, but you don't on a lot of areas that will play out into the future. So your focus has to be on here and now, and you have to focus on what is in the present so that you can deliver on that particular area and then keep on moving into the future. Of course, everything is aligned to a long-term plan. But if everything is focused on the long term, then you miss out on the present here and now. So that is one. The other thing about being in the present is that for me, I get irritated by small things in the organization. I never get ruffled with any big crisis.
Oh, is that so?
So to me, any big crisis is something where we just have to be in the moment, in the present, understand where we are right now, put our heads down and, solve it piece by piece. Small things, very, very minor things which actually should not be ruffle me, but large things don't. Crisis is what, just cools me down and brings me into the moment because we've got to deal with it there and then. And, you can't afford to sort of lose your cool at that point in time because it reflects on the rest of the organization.
Wonderful. I'm just trying to think of what category I would slot myself in. Do the big things ruffle me or the smaller things, or probably both, actually, if you ask my team?
You look cool all the time, assuming that you are cool as a cucumber.
I wish. All right.
But yeah, next time I want to wear a jacket like you. And
You can have this and I can have that. Switching tracks slightly, Anish, you have a really unique framework, the 7 colors of leadership, right? And can you tell us a little bit more about the evolution of this framework and what color do you identify with?
so, I mean, there are various facets, right? There's creativity, there's
Courage,
there's
integrity, empathy,
there's
vision.
all those that are required to sort of, for any professional to be successful in their journey. But I think at the core of it, at the core of everything in life, it is integrity.
Okay.
Are you doing things the right way when nobody is looking at you?
And nobody's
And
watching.
one of the questions I keep asking in my town halls is, what happens if there is no policeman at a traffic junction and there's a red light and the traffic is very low? Do you keep on going straight or you wait till the traffic signal becomes green because that is the right thing to do? Do you drive on the wrong side because it's easier, or you prefer to take the longer circuitous route because it's the right thing to do?
Of course.
Right? And that all sort of boils down to this concept of integrity. Because if you have a high level of integrity, integrity automatically brings in ownership, it brings in courage, it brings in discipline, it brings in accountability, which are very important, areas that any organization has to focus on. Now imagine if you were very courageous, but you had a very low level of integrity. That would be dangerous for an organization. If you're very creative, but you had a low level of integrity, right? So to me, integrity is at the core of everything. And then you need all the different elements to be successful. And you need to make sure that those different colors are translated to the team as well. So I'll give you an example. I was in a lift a few weeks back, and there was a conversation happening between two people. I imagine one was the boss and the other person was reporting to him. And the boss was telling me, you are always very tactical, you are not strategic. So it piqued my interest and I said, what really do you mean by strategic? So he, of course, gave me a blank stare. But, you make these kind of statements and then you expect that the team member will suddenly become strategic in nature, because you have to really explain, what is your expectation out of it. And here I think the key word is vision, right? For whatever you are doing, whatever your role, you might be a territory manager, you might be a field officer. Do you have a vision for what you want to do in your territory? Do you want to have a vision in manufacturing to have the best quality product? How do you continuously keep on improving? Do you have a vision for yourself in supply chain? Every function needs to have that vision, and that's what strategy is all about. This is the vision, that's where I'm headed. And what do I do now to make sure that I do everything that takes me closer to the goal or the vision that I've set for myself, right? So to me, vision is, again, as a leader, is an extremely important facet, and leaders have to be dreamers. You have to dream beyond the ordinary, because the entire notion is that, do you want to set the bar high and maybe miss it slightly, or do you want to keep it low and still achieve it? Where are you going to be better off? You're going to be better off there, right? So as a leader, you need to continuously keep on challenging the norm. You need to constantly keep on evolving, and that's where the 7 colors all play out beautifully.
As a leader, Anish, do you share your vision often and frequently with your leadership team, with the entire organization? Are you a very active communicator? Do you reach out to your team a lot? What's your personal style?
Yeah. So it's about aligning everybody to the purpose of the organization. When we came in, we set the vision of the organization at Healthium as access to precision medtech to every patient globally. The key words here being access and precision. And how do we drive it across the organization is we have 3 values that constantly are narrated through every narrative in the organization, whether it is me or whether it is the other leaders in the organization. So one is agility, the other is collaborative, and the third is inquisitive. These are slightly different the way we have created these values, because we wanted to make sure that as an organization we are always agile. We are in the medtech industry. We need to make sure that we are ahead of the curve in understanding what is it that we can do
For the patient or the
better
customer.
for the patient, for the customer, for the surgeons that we are dealing with. Collaborative, we collaborate, in some cases we are B2B suppliers for our competition as well. So we need to have some Chinese walls between what we are doing and make sure that we collaborate with the stakeholders in creating new products, in the customers, with the competitors to make sure the right product is available to the patient. And then finally being inquisitive all the time. What is it? How do you challenge the norm? How do you become better at what you're doing? What is it that you can do differently? So these were the three values which we had encased. And just last week, I rolled out a new value, which is accountability. Accountability in everything that we do. Right. So whether it is...
Does that have a color as well?
No, it really doesn't have a color, but it's a very powerful amalgamation of everything else.
Okay.
Right? Are you clearly taking accountability of making a difference in the life of your stakeholders, of your own lives, of your professional journey? And if you are, then everything will fall in place eventually. So that's how sort of, we have been building, extremely thoughtful of the values we've put together, because ultimately it all has to come in. And, to your point, it is through a series of communications that keep happening on a very regular basis in the organization. In fact, we have a reward system which rewards different values in the organizations from time to time.
Okay.
Right? So there are people who get value-based awards for either agility or inquisitive or collaborative, and now of course it's going to be accountability. So that's another way of drilling it down to everybody in the company.
Wow, that's fascinating. And as your company is growing, what, you have 5,000, 6,000 employees?
About 3,000.
3,000? So as it keeps growing, getting it down to every individual's level constantly and consistently is really the key, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, everybody has to be aligned, which is why a lot of work is happening on leadership development in the organization, because ultimately I can't be everywhere.
Yes.
My direct team cannot be everywhere.
Everywhere either.
But we have leaders across the globe now who have the responsibility of taking it down and making sure that everybody's aligned to the values of the organization. Otherwise, if we are doing something, saying something, and doing something else, then clearly,
that won't work.
It is a issue of trust that our stakeholders will have with us.
Anish, you've written a lot about, and I follow you on LinkedIn, where you are very regular in sort of posting about leadership, and I think probably in that community you're considered to be one of the sort of top voices, right? Because you're posting frequently and constantly about leadership, and really interesting, short points which can be consumed on the go, right? It's not something which is a treatise on leadership or anything like that, right? And one of the things you've written is, self-worth as leadership fuel, right? Now, in today's day and age where, the imposter syndrome is real, how do you get people to balance, get the right balance, right? Self-worth, of course, important, but at the same time, humility as well, right? How do you ensure that you're able to kind of push this out to, again, 3,000 people working at your organization? How do you ensure there's a sense of consistency in the way the messaging is done on this front?
So one key area is the alignment with the purpose of the organization. Right?
Okay.
Different people work for different objectives in their lives, but unless until they are aligned with this sense of purpose of what they really want to do, you will have different points of view across the organization. You will have different behaviors in the organization that you want to move away from. When we are in constant discussions with our folks, the entire focus is on self-belief. We have so much of past experience that we've had as a country or as companies within these countries, where, in our own country, where companies have grown from almost nothing to become institutions, that we have a lot of case studies around us. And the only difference between them and those who did not make it there was the sense of alignment, the sense of purpose, the being driven with a certain mission in mind. But more than that, that belief that they could make it happen. Right? A lot of this belief gets embellished when you move from one level to another and you constantly keep on communicating to the team. So transparency is at the core of what we do. All the 3,000 people at Healthium know exactly what is happening to the company, both the goods and the bads. and they know what strategies are working for us, what tactics are working for us, what strategies or tactics are not working for us, and why we are making some of the changes that we are making. That is extremely important. The second thing is that if you have trusted anybody with a particular role, then we expect that person to be the best in that particular role. Now, by expect, I don't mean in terms of the deliverables, but in terms of the responsibility or the accountability we entrust to that particular person. It is that now you are end-to-end responsible. You have to believe that you have the capability to deliver this, and we have the belief in you. So a lot of it is because of your confidence in somebody else, because they are looking for a little bit of reaffirmation or a confirmation. And if you confirm to them that no, we are putting that trust in you, take initiatives, take risks, grow, and we will not punish you for failure. So one of the statements that I always make is that, I would rather reward well thought through plan which failed rather than mediocre successes. Because mediocre success is what we all get paid for. But if you've done something, you've learned out of it, then you have come out of it as a much stronger individual, right? So failure as a subject in an organization is actually treated, not only treated normally, but it is actually in some ways rewarded also, that you did something, let the rest of the organization learn from it and grow. The other thing is we never fire anybody because they failed in a particular role.
Okay.
They tried something and they failed. We never fired anybody because I don't want that what happened at the cost of my organization is benefited by somebody else.
Sure.
So
meaning they take the learning from your organization, go somewhere else.
Failure is a stepping stone to success. It is a learning, right? So I would rather institutionalize why we failed so that we don't do that again, rather than getting rid of the person, and the person who is now much smarter is going to contribute somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
So that also helps build that self-confidence that no, we are allowed to take chances, we are allowed to take risks, as long as it is in the purview of compliance and quality. Those are areas where we don't want to take
compromise on.
Otherwise, that's sort of the...
Anish, I want to just go a little bit back to what you said again a while ago, which is sort of the way you communicate to everybody in your organization, all 3,000 of them, with respect to strategies and everything that you're doing, the good, what's working, the bad, what's not working, areas of improvement, whatever, right? So transparency is key. You're a strong believer in that. I've often, lots of CEOs take a slightly different approach. They prefer to keep information to a smaller circle of people, maybe their trusted circle, etc. And the reason they give for this is that they don't want to take a chance with somebody leaving the organization and sort of then sharing all of their secrets with the competitor or what have you, right? How do you deal with that? And doesn't that sort of bother you or keep you up at night? The worry that somebody from your team could actually, sort of move to a competitor and take everything that they've learned with them.
So it's not that it hasn't happened. It has happened quite a few times. But what I've seen is that the competitor can copy your product, they can copy your price, they can copy your strategy, but it's very difficult to copy your culture. Now, if you have a culture of ownership, accountability, doing things the right way, simplifying the complex, then it transcends into a journey of experience even for our customers. So we've had various incidences where, individuals, a group of individuals went to competitive forces with the idea of using that information or using that particular strategy in making that company more successful. We haven't really seen it play out that way. I've seen the larger impacts of transparency and making sure that trust is an embodiment in the organization play out in our favor than those few incidences that sort of impact you. And I'm not saying that there's zero impact, there is impact. Sometimes in the immediate future you see, some debilitating impact also. But in the larger scheme of things, the entire culture of trust, compliance, quality plays out significantly as opposed to that. I think also what happens is that, when somebody takes information from here to there, or critical designs from here to there, there's always a mistrust on that part of the organization also, right? So we don't even hire people who are coming to us because they were unhappy with the earlier organization and they are in a vengeance mode. That's an area of zero hiring for us. We don't do that at all.
That's negativity, and you don't want that.
Yeah. Our message to our team members, including HR, is hire those people who don't want to join you, who are not looking for a job.
Okay.
Right? Because those are the people that are going to come and really make a difference to the organization, right? And we're really not looking at somebody who, is fishing for a job all the time or is trying to bargain basis some pieces of information. We don't like that. And this plays out. I mean, so far it has played out. We might get hurt sometimes, I don't know. But as of now, it's played out well for us.
Well, for all those of you who are watching this and want to join Healthium, don't apply to Healthium. Figure out a way to appear busy where you are and let the Healthium folks find you. I guess that would be the way to get hired by Healthium, right?
1.4 billion people, so I would recommend that keep all channels open.
You have said something very interesting, Anish, which I'm quite fascinated by. You have said energy, not time, is your most valuable resource. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Now, if you can just elaborate on that a little bit and also tell us, how do you manage your energy? Because I'm not going to ask you how you manage your time. How do you manage your energy such that you are more effective as a leader?
So what does energy really translate into? Energy translates into, or what I mean by energy is focus. Right? Where are you focusing all your energies on? Because as a leader in any organization, there are multiple forces that will keep pulling you. And unless and until you are able to prioritize and say, these three is where I need to put maximum energy on, maximum focus on, you will realize that you are being drawn into 80% of those inane things which are so operational in nature that by putting your time, energy and effort there, you're not going to move the needle at all. So it all boils down to your ability to focus, and focus is not easy because, people are coming to you for decision making all the time. They're coming to you for some counsel all the time. And your ability to then say, no, you figure this out yourself versus let me sit down and let's see how we can solve this particular problem that you're facing so that, we can grow out of it. That becomes extremely important. I see most of the leaders getting sucked into different directions. So that sort of energy is focus. Where is it that you're spending your energy on? Because you've got finite sources of energy. And if you're going to burn yourself in the 80% of inane things, then you are going to miss out on this, right? So it's sort of a give or take that you need to do. I think energy on a physical and a mental form or a spiritual form is also very important, because how are you keeping yourself fit? You need oodles of energy, especially when you're running companies, when you're running functions, departments, etc. And unless and until you invest in yourself, you are going to at certain point in time lose the game to a health issue, right? So for me, kickboxing is an area which is not only of physical relevance but also spiritual, because that 1 hour that I'm doing kickboxing, I'm away from the rest of the world. The second thing I have going for me, at least from a health and a physical mental fitness, is do some activity or the other every day. And I was in a meeting where a person said that, sir, when I wake up in the morning, it becomes then difficult for me to get ready and go for a walk or go for a run. So my advice to that person was, keep your running gear next to your bed. And the first thing when you wake up is wear the running gear. Now do all the chores that you were supposed to do, but mentally you have challenged yourself to say that now that I'm ready, I might as well go.
Might as well.
So for me also, this is a ritual that, once I wake up, I just get into my sports gear. It pushes me to do something or the other. And, it might be just a normal walk. It might be a small run. It could be just doing some push-ups in my own room, but it pushes me into that particular direction. So how do you use those props in your favor to motivate you and to push you? Because somebody can keep telling you all the time, that's not going to take you beyond the point. Ultimately, it has to be self-driven. And the other is, the entire spiritual thing, why are you here for? Ultimately, there is only one truth. And you have to make your life relevant because there's a reason why you're here. So make it relevant and see, how you improved something every day, whether it was your inner self or some impact that you made to anybody. And it could be a very small impact. Those things are extremely important because then you are here in the present, you are focusing your energies in the right direction, and you are making much more sense of your ability to contribute more than what you have by being driven into a lot of other
And also helps you
unnecessary.
stay more grounded then.
It helps you stay.
Wonderful.
I think the spirituality part is what helps you stay grounded.
Of course.
Because, a lot of times in life we give ourselves more credit than due.
Then is due.
We are a function of, amongst other things, a lot of luck in life, right? So that's something you can't take credit for.
Well, how's that for a very humble leader, Anish? But fair enough. I think what you say makes a lot of sense. I think luck does play a fairly large role in all of our lives, meeting the right people, making the right connections, all of that. A lot of it is also luck or destiny, call it what you will. Before I end this segment, Anish, I want to just ask you, so the equivalent of running shoes, do you have something like that for work or office? As soon as you get in, do you have something that is there to propel you towards doing something or getting something done?
Other than the morning cup of tea, the first half an hour I just like to spend time alone in the office. I don't want to get into a meeting immediately. That helps me to sort of, if there are any pending issues, any pending mails, take care of that. And a meeting starts only half an hour later, so that I've collected myself, whether there was traffic, no traffic, whether there was a certain mood issue, you sort of settle down, and then you start your meetings half an hour later. That is the regimen I follow.
That you follow. All right. So Anish, you are in a very unique space with respect to the Indian Medtech sort of healthcare industry, right? And I think our sort of healthcare industry has done a great enough job, from a, let's say, Atmanirbhar perspective. We are probably providing enough for our country, although I'm sure we could do more. You have said at multiple fora that we could actually be providers for the world also, right? Is there any one policy change or anything that the government can do to propel us, to take us to the next level? Because that's, I think, the difference between a 4 trillion and maybe a 20 trillion economy, right? When we are providing for the world. So is that something you can sort of shed light on?
In areas that India sets its mind to, the ability to excel has been demonstrated several times, right? Whether it was the IT or whether it is the pharmaceuticals, where we are now the pharmacy of the world. We pretty much supply pharmaceuticals to everybody else. And we are the largest suppliers of generics into the US as well, right? The next, amongst other industries, is going to be the medtech industry. Now, as a country, it has been a phase of transition for us. The first focus was on pharmaceuticals, it was on diagnostics, and now we are moving towards the medtech side of things. As a country, currently, our dependence on imports is very high because the overall ecosystem is not that developed. So you import your products either from the US or Europe or China, Turkey, some of those places, and that is what caters to the demand that we have in the country. Now, what does it take to create a good medtech company? All the skills that are required there are available. So you need great engineering skills, metallurgical, polymers and plastics, regulatory, pharmacovigilance, pharmacology, all those are available in abundance in our country. What you need is companies that have the ability to harness those capabilities and create products which are meant for the world. Right? This is an evolutionary process, and we are seeing this industry take off now. In my view, this is the sunrise industry from a next 20-year perspective. For any industry to grow, and not necessarily as a protectionist move, but the fastest route of growth is captive consumption. If captive consumption of India-made products increases in India, automatically it gives you economies of scale. It gives you size that allows you then to invest more in terms of R&D, in terms of manufacturing capabilities, in terms of research labs, testing equipment, etc. And then it helps the ecosystem to foster, because we are in an industry where we need multiple components. There's plastics, there's electronics, there's software, there is metals. Some of the products that we make have almost 250 to 300 components. Now, how do I manufacture the product in India if the component manufacturer is not yet ready? And if I import all the components, then put the product together, then the product is expensive. For the domestic market, how do I export it out of our country, right? So I think we are in that takeoff stage right now where the ecosystem is falling in place. We will see captive consumption grow. And that's where the government plays an important role as well, because in India, the government is really focused on providing healthcare for all. You've seen various schemes, either at a state level or at a country level, that have been rolled out. The more domestically oriented companies or companies that have domestic manufacturing footprints participate in that, the more you will see them scale up and become larger in size. The one thing, however, all these smaller companies at the inception stage should also keep in mind is, do not create a good enough product. Create the best product. Now, a lot of product development is transient in nature, it is transitional in nature, it is iterative in nature. But you have to be right the first time and bring products that are of global standard for the Indian patient, because that acceptance will then help you to propel globally. So for us as a company, we have only one product. The same product is manufactured irrespective of the geography we are selling to. And the areas that we will never compromise on are compliance and quality. So if you are wedded to quality, if you want to build a compliant organization, there is no other way but for you to grow. The growth can be propelled faster if captive consumption in the country improves and there is increased acceptance of products that are made in India. And I think it is more a function of time and more of when rather than if.
It's interesting, Anish, that you mentioned this as in a uniform quality for the product that you make, irrespective of the geography that you're selling to.
Right.
I know a lot of MNCs that actually create probably a slightly inferior product for India because they intend to sell it maybe at a lower price point, because India is a more price sensitive market. And consequently, they have a sort of lower quality product for India, and they, for Europe or the US or other parts of the world, they have probably a superior quality product. It's interesting that you have taken a different approach, that you will have the same product, high quality across the world, no matter where you sell to, whether it's India, South Asia, Africa, US, Europe, doesn't matter, right? You'll follow the same.
Exactly the same.
That's really interesting, and that's probably the way to sell for the world or manufacture for the world.
Right. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to consolidate all our manufacturing, clinical research, new product development, R&D in India, but we are making a product that has access to the global markets, which is why a lot of investment goes on the clinical development side, clinical research side, so that you have the clinical accreditations that allow you to take the product globally, right? And you need to have that sort of foresight right from the beginning, rather than take it as an evolutionary process, because these things don't happen overnight.
Right.
Getting your clinical research done, papers published, getting accreditations is a function of time. So right at the inception, if you put it as a part of the key asks of the organization, then you will see your ability to scale up is much faster once you have crossed that sort of minimum threshold levels
Understood.
out there.
Very quickly, in one line, if you could tell us, what is your ask of the government? The government of India, what can they do to make life easier for you?
Help us foster that ecosystem of component suppliers in this country.
Okay.
And to give credit to the government, there's a lot of work that's happening on that particular area. If we are able to source those components internationally, in India rather than internationally, we have enough talent in this organization that can create great products. The other thing is that, again, it boils down to, if we can have more captive consumption of our products in our country, it will give us larger economies of scale much faster, and the ability to invest either in market growth or new product development at an earlier stage, right? So encouraging captive consumption in the country, I think, is going to be helpful for us to grow faster.
Understood. Healthium has been at the forefront of, surgical and medtech innovation. There's some really exciting stuff that you all have been doing. Is there anything that excites you either about something that you've built or you're building that you can talk about? What is the one thing that either product, solution, or anything that you have built or you're building that particularly excites you, that you want to talk about?
I think the biggest excitement we have is that we are making an international company with a base in India, and we are really helping to foster the entire medtech industry in this country, right? So, I mean, our dream is that there will be 100 Healthiums over a period of the next 20 years, and that will really create a large ecosystem which will ultimately benefit our stakeholders, which is the patient, right? So, our stated goal is that whatever we do, we want to be in the top 3 in India, because that is a justification of the scale you are trying to build. It is a seal on the quality of your products that you are trying to supply in your own markets. Now, another stated goal is that we want to de-risk ourselves, both from a business perspective as well as from a geography perspective. So we started by being a narrowly focused company which was focused only on one category of wound closure. But over the last 6-7 years, we've added 2 more categories. And the one thing that I'm really proud about is that we've created a new set of products that cater to sports medicine. Sports medicine or arthroscopy is a very fast growing area. Any country that adapts sports, which has an aging population, will have sports related injuries, which muscle tears,
common.
ACL, PCL, etc., etc. So we created this category over a period of the last 7-8 years, and we started building it by saying that we will not be copycats. We want products that are differentiated, where we can create our own IPs, where we are able to offer a value proposition to our patient in the country to begin with and take it globally. And I'm very proud to say that in a period of the last 6 years since launch, we launched those products in 2018. We are now India's number 3 player in sports medicine. We have launched the products in 22 countries this year, and by the end of the year, we expect those products to be sold in 45 countries.
Wow.
We've got 85 plus patents, either granted or pending in this particular category. And what we are doing is we are trying to become a one-stop shop for all the products, right? So we started by making implants, which is sort of what goes inside the tissue or the bone. Then we move to creating the instruments that are made to put these. Then there are other components, for example, the visualization system that the doctor used or the surgeon uses to navigate through the surgery. We have created that on our own. So we've launched India's first 4K visualization system for arthroscopy. And these are skills that we didn't have earlier, right? We didn't have any skills in electronics. We had metallurgical skills, we have plastic skills, but this is a skill that we acquired. So this entire, dynamic nature of our business, and to continuously keep on expanding the portfolio, bringing in new skills, bringing in new processes that help us to create world-class products, that is a very, very exciting phase for us, right? But the arthroscopy business is something I'm really, really proud of. Now we are looking at 3-4 other areas which we will keep investing in from a future perspective.
Well, congratulations. Here's hoping that you sort of, grow bigger and stronger, better products, better market reach, both in India and globally. Sort of allied to this theme, Anish, you've been a vocal advocate of greater collaboration between, the academia world and the industry, right? Is there any, what would you say would be a top 1, 2, or 3 items in your wish list practically to make this collaboration happen, or to sort of see it happen, more from a practical perspective? Is there anything that you see are stumbling blocks today? How is it working?
So for industries like us to prosper, there are 3 very critical stakeholders. One is the academia, the other is industry, the third is the regulators. And finally, it is the customers, who might be surgeons, who might be hospitals, it might be the direct patient. These are the critical stakeholders. And wherever an ecosystem developed that took the collaborative effort of these 4, you saw industry growth happening, new products coming in, innovation being fostered. And that's exactly the sort of framework that we are looking at also. Now, we have got great institutions of learning in this country, and they're not restricted to the IITs. You have great engineering institutions, great medical institutions. And one of the areas where we are trying to work with the academia is that can you focus on one area of specialization as an entity? Because when you try to do too many things in too many related areas on medtech, it all doesn't combine to one certain strength. So, for example, can an institution in Delhi just focus on orthopedic implants? It's a very large area. The globally, if you look at all orthopedics, it's about a $20 billion industry, and we are, as a country, playing a very minuscule role there.
What are we at broadly? I mean,
so our overall market in the country would be in the range of about 3,000 crores.
Okay.
For all the orthopedic implants, and then we are minuscule players globally.
Understood.
Right. So if an academic institution focuses, and with the support of regulatory, because you want to make sure products that are compliant and that pass the regulators' framework, if you are able to focus on one area, then we will be able to come up with a lot of products much faster. Similarly, when it comes to equipment, can we designate a certain zone or a certain geography which focuses on electronics? There's, instruments, can a zone, and this can be married with the local strengths of that particular area. For example, there are certain geographies in India which have a great talent base on precision engineering. Right? Now, that talent base there can be channelized in an industry which is new, which is the medtech industry, but create precision-based products that are, let's say, implants in nature. And that can be the area of focus, right? So, if we can geographically start demarcating areas of excellence in the country, my feeling is that the academia will be able to help the industry come up with great futuristic products. And if the regulatory intervention is a part of the developmental stage, then you will be able to take those products faster to the market. So that's where I think the ecosystem is in the process of developing, and that will develop over the next.
So you need academia, you need industry, and the government/regulators all to kind of come together effectively in order to make this successful.
Right.
Okay. Is there any work happening in that area? Are these three parties sort of already starting the process of collaboration, or it's
happening in multiple areas? So, you have the NIPER, you have various other institutions that are also supporting financially the growth of high quality medtech products out of India. The ecosystem is still on a built up stage, right? So, in my view, in the next 4 to 5 years, we'll really see that developing. But there's a lot of focus by the government in terms of putting this entire framework in place. And academia is interested, but at this point in time, they are also looking at industry to support those elements of focus they can bring in terms of either research or new product development or testing capabilities out of their institutions.
Culture is something that you're a big believer in, Anish, and I want to kind of maybe just spend a little bit of time on that. And I want to sort of kick that segment off by asking you if you have, you must have received feedback as a leader. What's been the hardest or toughest feedback that you've received, but you've taken it and you've really sort of applied it to making you a better leader?
So one of the feedbacks came in very early in my life, just out of the first job. As a management trainee, I joined this particular organization, and as most management trainees, within 1.5 years, I was also moving to do something else. And on the last day, I was sitting with my then boss, and taking her through some of the people issues and some of the process issues. And her question to me was that, but then why didn't you do anything about it? And I said, but I had resigned and I was moving on. And she said, till the last day you are in your particular role or job, you are responsible for delivering. So, you can't cut yourself off just because you have
put in your papers.
That was a very big lesson, and I'm so glad it happened early in my life with me, that till the last day you are, or the last minute that you are doing your role. You have to be fully accountable.
Fair.
And you have to do what is right for the organization, right? And that learning has always stayed with me, and that is also my ask of people who work with us, that there will be different opportunities, one will move, and one should also move for growth, but at the same time, you can't let the ball drop just because you put in your papers.
Fair point. That's very useful learning. I know some leaders believe that the minute you put in your papers, you leave. They don't mind buying out your notice period or paying you the notice period, but they just don't want you anywhere around. And others who believe, listen, you've got 30, 60, 90 days to serve notice.
Yeah.
Work as if everything else had to be done. So fair enough. Any feedback that you've received as you've grown as a more senior person, as a leader? Because as you become more and more senior, I suppose the feedback that you get is less. Is that true? Do you believe that to be the case, or you continue to still receive feedback no matter your seniority or how high up you've gone?
I think as you grow, the onus is on you to seek feedback,
Okay.
rather than waiting for feedback to come your way.
So you have to solicit it. You have to
Right?
ask for it.
So you have to solicit, and it has to be multifaceted, because just asking one individual will give you probably just one point of view. So continuously taking that 360 view around yourself and then acting on that feedback becomes extremely important. A lot of times, we have our own blind spots, and we are very happy living with those blind spots around us because we have crafted out other areas as our areas of strengths, saying that, I don't need to work on this at all, or maybe it's a blind spot, so I don't even know about it. You have to constantly, as you grow in the organization, the onus is on you to draw it out of your team members and ensure that you demonstrate it by, showing them that you are actually making a conscious effort to make that happen, right? So that's extremely important. You won't get your bosses coming and telling you those few feedback points in area of improvement.
You need to go and ask for it.
Yeah, you have to ask.
Okay. You are a big believer in celebrating the sort of small wins, daily wins, rather than waiting for the big, milestone where you've hit the number or the target or the goal or whatever it is. How do you keep that going? How do you, and personally, do you get involved in the small celebrations and the small wins? If you could share some examples of that.
So I think it needs to be really understood that you actually have two families, the family that you work at and the family at home. And with the family at work, you're actually spending more time than you are with the family at home. Because even if you're physically there, most of the time you're thinking about work or work-related issues, etc. Right? That realization becomes very important. That as a group of people, this is one family that sort of has to manifest a lot of things that you are doing in your personal life as well. And celebrating small wins, patting people on the back for things that they have done right, making sure that they don't take failure to heart and they are using it as a stepping stone to that learning. These are all areas where the entire leadership has to continuously keep on demonstrating its ask. So one of the things that is a zero compromise area for us is respect. Right from the person who is serving tea to the person, to the CEO of the organization, the level of respect cannot vary, and you need to treat everybody as an equal within the organization. That itself is a huge manifestation of the culture of the organization, right? The other thing is that take every small incident that you have and make the floor, make the organization participate in it. Make stories, or the stories that are there of the organization, make sure that they're shared with everybody and everybody feels that they are aligned to a particular purpose, they are being recognized for what they are doing. That has to become as a culture of the organization. Rewards for us is not an annual process. We have rewards that keep on happening throughout the year, and the rewards are for various reasons. There could be for a very small change one would have brought in. There could be for a demonstration of a particular value. It could be a demonstration of a certain skill that they have exhibited, right? So it's a continuous part and process of the culture. Should we do a better job of that? Yes, I think we should do a better job of that, because ultimately human beings like to be appreciated if they have done something right, or if they have gone out of their way and taken an initiative. Right? And organizations like us, which are entrepreneurial in nature, initiative has to be rewarded again and again, because when initiative is rewarded, it will become a part of the behavior pattern of the organization.
Analysis paralysis. Many leaders struggle with it, right? You analyze something to death and you're still unable to take the decision or come to a conclusion or decide, right? I think most leaders have probably, most, I'm not saying all, I'm saying most, have struggled with that, right? How to make a decision quickly yet effectively. What's your go-to mantra for tough decisions when you need to make a tough decision and you have data and you have everything, yet it is a decision that is going to, it's going to be tough. Let's just leave it at that.
So every time, if you reminisce on what has impacted you or the organization negatively, it is that you did not take a tough decision at the right time. Most of the time that is the case. It could be a strategy decision, it could be an investment decision. In most cases, it is a people decision also. And it is either because you are wedded emotionally to that particular idea, or because you were instrumental in hiring this particular person, and you're sort of want to keep on giving them more and more opportunities because you want to prove yourself right, and that makes the entire organization suffer, because as the sort of theory goes, one bad apple will spoil all the other apples, and most of the times it is not the bad apple, it is just the wrong fit with your organization, right? The person could be brilliant somewhere else. So these are areas where you have to constantly keep on reminding yourself that as a leader of an organization, it is your job to take tough decisions. You're getting paid to take tough decisions. Not all your decisions are going to be right, and you'll have to live with the pain of also taking a wrong decision. But the pain of not taking a decision is significantly larger than not taking a decision. And this is where your lattice work of mental models comes into play. Your ability to put all the experiences that you've had together and put them in a model which helps you to decide, because to your earlier point around gut does play an instrumental role here, but gut is a function of the experience that you've had in the past. And which is why I'm a big proponent of diversity in the organization. Diversity doesn't necessarily have to be gender related. It should be, of course, but it's diversity of thoughts, diversity of experiences. Do you have a leadership team that walks up to you and challenges you on pretty much anything, that gives you an advice on pretty much anything, because they don't have the fear that they will be reprimanded for going against what you thought was the right thing to do? So when you create a culture like that, you automatically create an environment where some of these tough decisions are taken either individually or collectively. But you have to remember that the buck stops at you, and ultimately you are the one who will have to make the final call.
So you do consult with your team, but ultimately you use all of those opinions that you get, and then you finally have to take the call because the buck does stop with you. Okay,
absolutely.
Fair enough. Now we come to the fun part. You are in the hot seat already. We're going to do the rapid fire. And the key, of course, is for you to answer spontaneously. Don't overthink it. Whatever comes to mind first, just go with that. Okay? All right?
Putting me in a spot now.
Yes.
Ready for this.
Okay, good. One book that changed the way you think.
Poor Charlie's Almanac by Charlie Munger.
Okay. One leadership quote you live by.
This is from the movie where Shah Rukh Khan also enacted, is that if you really want something in life, the entire universe will conspire to make it happen for you.
It's from that Om Shanti Om, I think, no?
I think it was played in Om Shanti Om as well.
Okay. The most underrated leadership skill.
Humility.
A misconception about CEOs that needs to go.
That they know everything.
All right. If you had to describe your leadership style in one word.
I've heard this concept of servant leadership, but I think, ultimately, as the chief of the organization, your job is to serve the folks in the organization. If you do that right, the rest, everything falls in place.
Okay. So your leadership style in one word is servant leadership. If not medtech, which industry would you want to lead in?
I would have been in the stockbroking industry probably.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just because you get so much to work on in terms of the different industries, in terms of the different kind of organizations to understand how they function. I find that fascinating.
And every day is a hustle.
Every day is a hustle.
All right. One thing that instantly lifts your energy.
Other than protein bars?
Other than protein bars?
I think it's the kickoff boxing session that I have. I feel
okay.
very energized after that.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot to mention is, I do regular rounds of yoga also. My wife is a yoga instructor. So I feel extremely energized after those rounds of yoga, but they're really tough.
They're really tough? Kickboxing is easier?
I find it easier than yoga because she makes me stretch left, right, and she's quite ruthless.
All right. A hidden talent no one knows about. I think I know the answer to this one, but go ahead.
I think it is jumping and shouting from the rooftop. You're probably thinking it is singing.
Yes. But I think you're quite a natural, talented singer, Anish.
Yeah, that's what my wife also tells me, but I'm self-aware and I know how terrible I am.
One bold prediction for the future of healthcare.
I think India is going to reign supreme over the next 25 to 30 years because of the sheer capabilities, talent, the hunger that we have, and sort of the large market that allows you to, really create products for the future.
Okay. So thank you so much for that, Anish. I think you did fairly well in the rapid fire.
Is there a hamper or?
Yeah, there is a hamper that's waiting for you once we finish this session.
As long as I won it.
You did. You were competing with yourself,
right,
and you did a good job.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So it's often said that, the past doesn't define your leadership. If you could go back in a time machine and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say be bolder. Sometimes at the beginning of the career, you are focused on value rather than growth. And you're trying to extract the best out of what you have rather than saying, how do I take it and grow exponentially? And I think that's a big difference because you might deliver for a short time a similar result, but over a long period, growth really outshines and it just catapults the organization in a different manner. So I would say, focus on growth, be bold, take the right decisions, and don't be afraid of failure because you'll just get better with every failure that you've had.
Okay. It's often said that leadership is a continuous process, right? Great, if not good leaders are always open to learning, and it's a continuous process of learning. It never stops. Is there anything that comes to mind that you've learned from recently, either a book, a podcast, or even a conversation that you had with a mentor, a friend, anything that that you can talk about as something that helped you learn?
So, I was talking to you about this book called Poor Charlie's Almanac, and I think Charlie Munger was one of the, last of the great philosophers of our time. He's associated more with investing,
yes,
but I think he's a genius when it comes to understanding human behavior. One of the things I would really recommend to everybody is to listen to this small speech by him, which is on the 24 principles of human misjudgment, which I think is great. But then also his book is something that I keep on opening and reading from time to time. And one of the things he talks about is invert, always invert, which is that if you have a goal in mind and then you start working on it backwards, saying that what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what do I need to get there, and then start putting an action plan in place for that. That will really help you in getting to your goal in a very well-defined manner, rather than just taking every day as it comes and keep building on top of that in the chase of a goal which may or may not happen. So invert, always inverts. Invert is, I think, a great principle that he's taught.
Meaning work backwards, identify your goal, work backwards,
exactly.
and identify little steps that you can do
to get to that goal.
To get to that goal.
Exactly.
Understood. Okay.
So that is one. The other thing is, this entire concept of lattice work of mental models. Because a lot of times when you are reading something or when you are listening to something, you're looking for instant gratification. Right? What is it that I can implement today? And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. When you are imbibing knowledge through any kind of means, you are, depositing it somewhere in your cerebrum. And over a period of time, when you have exposed yourself to a diverse range of learnings, all the mental models will come together and play out for you. So one of the examples I have, and I was telling one of my mentees, is this particular case where a car is stuck, and the owners of the car are trying to make the motor work. It's not working at all. So they call a mechanic, and the mechanic says, I'm going to take $1,000 to, I know what the problem is, I'll take $1,000 to rectify this. And they said, okay, we are not able to get anywhere, so that's fine. And he takes a spanner and he hits it at a certain place, and the car starts. So the owners of the car are definitely not happy about it. They said, look, you didn't do anything. And
Why
you're charging us
$1,000?
$1,000. So he says that, the cost of the hitting at with the spanner is only $10. $990 is to know where to hit the spanner. Right. And
So the experience and the knowledge, all of that is...
It all gets accumulated, and then your ability to put two and two together and take a decision at that point in time will help you to be in the right direction as much as possible.
Fair enough. Very good advice. So, Anish, we're going to now wrap up this wonderful conversation. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, and we have a lot of future leaders tuning into this conversation. What is the one piece of advice that you'd leave for them, as they are looking to sort of upskill to get to a place where they become leaders of organizations like you? What is the piece of advice that you would have for them?
A simple piece of advice is be a sponge.
Be a sponge.
Keep on learning, keep on imbibing new things, and focus on learning rather than on the end results. Now, when I was in my first role, I had a one-on-one with the GM HR of that particular organization. And he told me a very poignant point. He said, Anish, don't chase success, don't chase money, chase learning. Because if you focus on learning, if you focus on experience, the rest will follow at a certain point in time. If you chase success and you chase money, you're going to get stuck very early in life. At that point in time, it did look like an inane, advice, but I decided to follow that, and it has played out well, at least in my life. And that's exactly what I tell all, young leaders, that don't focus on the here and now. Focus on the learning. That will really help you to grow as a professional over a period of time. Right? Don't jump jobs because the next job is looking more lucrative or there's a better designation. Focus on what is it that I'm going to learn new, what is it that I'm going to imbibe, what are my new set of experiences that I'll get. And that is what is going to finally determine success in the long run. So don't take shortcuts and be a sponge would be my sort of, two messages to the youngsters.
So learning कर लो, पैसे की चिंता मत करो.
मतलब पैसा आएगा अपने आप. I'm not saying पैसे की चिंता मत करो, but पैसा आएगा, success आएगा. If you are doing
if
the
you're
right
learning,
things,
then it'll
right.
take
But
you
if you
places.
just chase money, it's not going to come.
Fair enough. I think I would definitely agree with that in terms of what youngsters should be focused on, because I think we see, at least I've seen a lot of it today, where people are, they change jobs for that extra 10 or 20 or 30%. And sometimes they take jobs where the learning isn't that great either.
Just a
but
designation.
It's just the money, right? Or the designation. And that is only going to get you that far and no more.
By the way, my money has still not come, so I'm still, focused on the learning.
All right. Anish, absolutely fantastic conversation. I don't know about you, but I've definitely learned a lot from this conversation with you. And while you say that your money hasn't come and you're still learning, you've definitely shared so much with all of us that I think this is all really leadership gold for anybody who's aspiring to be a leader. I think this is stuff that is not taught in B schools, and all the nuggets that you shared with us today is really, I think anybody watching this and taking detailed notes is going to benefit significantly from. So thank you. On behalf of everybody tuning in, thank you so much for being our guest today. And I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of you on the Leadership Lounge as we go along. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me over, Anthony. This was a great lesson for me also, as we were sort of articulating both our journeys in the professional world. And there is really no single pathway. You just have to keep on prodding, you just have to keep on plowing. And as long as you are at it, success is a function of time and not anything else. This has been a wonderful session, and loved meeting you and your team as well, and hoping to stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.